listening to Politics, a Harry Potter reread podcast that focuses on politics in the wizarding world. As always, I am Adri, one of your hosts, and a recovering English major who is very sad to be learning the Greek alphabet by, COVID variants.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's educational.
This is not the future that Sesame Street prepared me for.
Yeah. Well, Joe Biden apparently keeps on calling it Omicron instead of Omicron.
Yeah. It's like the most grandpa thing ever. Yes.
I actually, fun fact, I took 2 semesters of modern Greek language class in college.
My goodness.
We needed we had a language requirement in my college, and we had to take 4 semesters of one language, and I had already taken a ton of Spanish in high school and middle school, and I wanted to try something new, and I really wanted to take Italian, but it didn't fit in my schedule. And so I saw that they were offering modern Greek, and I really want to go to Greece one day, so I was like, this would be helpful. It was taught by 2 very elderly old men, Greek men, obviously from Greece. And I don't remember a single thing from it, but it got canceled. There were only this is at the University of Minnesota, which has over 50,000 students in it. And there were only 6 of us in the class, both semesters.
Okay.
And it ended up getting canceled after the second semester because it wasn't generating enough interest. So I had to go take a whole nother language anyway, because I needed 4 semesters of the same language to fill my requirement. But yeah, that's how I took modern Greek. I remember one time they took us to a Greek restaurant just for finals to
you know what,
test out our Greek skills by ordering in Greek. It was a fun time. I'm so sad they canceled that class.
I am in. Is the final going to a restaurant and ordering food? Yes, I'm in. That's what I want from my language courses.
They were just the cutest, sweetest little old Greek men that taught that class. I missed that class. It was a good class.
Sounds like a fun time.
Yeah.
I mean, sure. Did it not work out for you in the end? Of course.
Yeah.
But did you have fun while doing it? Yes.
Oh, heck yeah. And at least I got to learn. Technically, I don't remember anything from it, but at least I did technically get to learn the Greek alphabet not in the context of COVID. So,
yeah, unlike the rest of us peasants who are learning it by variant.
Exactly. Anyway, that was a fun little anecdote.
But who are you? Who are you? You have not introduced yourself.
Yeah, I mean, now you know all this about my Greek knowledge, but you don't even know who I am. Who's speaking? This is Helene, your co-host, producer, and new recent Jake Gyllenhaal hater.
A friendly Hufflepuff and recent Jake Gyllenhaal hater.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to preface everything, listeners, with the fact that I wrote my notes 2 weeks ago. I made the mistake of writing all my notes 2 weeks ago before we went on holiday break. So that remark was a lot more relevant when
back then.
Right, yeah.
So Helene's diligence really bit her in the ass on this episode.
Yes. So let me take you back in time 2 weeks ago, before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
When Taylor Swift released her I should say re-released her album Red, Taylor's version had just come out, and her 10-minute version of All Too Well, and the All Too Well short film. So yeah, this was the height of the Jake Gyllenhaal panic after finding out exactly the details of what he did to her. So that's what I was referring to, in case it's completely old news by the time this comes out.
Also, justice for Taylor's scarf. We need that back to her.
Oh my God. I heard I read something that completely blew my mind about that. So I heard that it could actually, and I kind of believe this, the scarf could actually have been a metaphor for her virginity.
No. I believe
You should.
I mean, this is my
have you heard that though? Because if you listen to the song with that in mind, it makes so much sense.
Okay, yeah, no, but there's an actual scarf. There's a literal scarf.
How do you know this for sure?
She has confirmed there is a literal scarf.
I'm sure she just doesn't want to be talking about her V card all over.
No, she gave her virginity to John Mayer. But that's the tea.
I don't know if I believe that.
Oh, girl. Yeah, we need to wait until she re-releases Dear John, Taylor's version, and you'll see.
Yeah.
There's probably like a 15-minute version.
I guess we'll see, yeah. What were you going to tell me something about the scarf?
Oh, yeah. There's an actual scarf, and there's some tea that someone has located this scarf, and they're actually in the process of talking to Taylor's people about making sure it's the scarf so she can get it back.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, justice for Taylor in general, but also Taylor's scarf. And since we already talked about this, I'm just going to say up front, that was the media that I had written down. Maybe by the end of the episode, I'll have thought of something else that I consume. Well, I've already thought of something else that I've consumed in the last 2 weeks that I can say. Never mind. We're good. Okay. We're good.
We're fine. Crisis averted. Red code deactivated. I'm really just so tired right now. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay, so before we get on to chapter 17, which is titled A Sluggish Memory of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, we have some things that have happened in the last 2 weeks that we've got to discuss. One of them is that there was yet another school shooting, this time in Oxford, Michigan.
Yeah.
4 students are dead, and they think that the parents of the shooter could be charged as well because the gun was purchased 4 days before the shooting, and the parents perhaps did not follow any safety protocols required of gun owners. However, there is no law in Michigan that requires that, so we will see.
It's just, what else is there to be said? I feel like this wasn't as big of a news story as it should have been. I feel like
because I think that we're just all.
It's fatigue, yeah. We're school shooting fatigued out or something. It's really sad. I hate it. Yeah.
I hate it so much.
Yeah.
Speaking of things we hate, let's just let's get on through it.
Just gonna power through.
Through.
Yeah. So we got 2 very important trial verdicts back in the last 2 weeks. The one that we hate is the Kyle Rittenhouse trial verdict. Came out right about 2 weeks ago when I was making the notes for this before we went on break. But he was
found not guilty on all charges.
I was trying to think of the word exonerated. That's what I was trying to think. He was exonerated on all the charges. He's a free man. Claims self-defense.
He's also like the most disgusting part of all of this, other than he's been found not guilty, is that now he has basically been going on a MAGA tour and taking photos with all these people.
Fucking Christ.
And I'm just like, really? This is what you want to do?
Yeah.
Like any PR crisis manager would have told the family to just lay low and wait until.
I mean, what does he have to lose now? I mean, there's double jeopardy. What are they going to do to him? Unless he goes and kills 3 other people. No, but if
you're really worried about your personal brand and image and all of that.
I don't think he's worried about. I think he knows that he has supporters. Know. He has supporters, and those are the ones that he wants, and they're not going anywhere.
Because. And we'll get this more into the politics because I got some thoughts on this for the chapter.
Okay.
A lot of the problems, I think, with our politics, our national politics in general, is this attitude of pride over things that we shouldn't be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lack of shame, based on the shameful things that people do.
Totally.
So instead of feeling ashamed of doing something, it's the pride of, well, I got away with it, so I'm going to rub it in your face.
I feel like that just is further proof that our society is just filled with sociopaths. People, I feel like empathy is a thing of the past. People don't people lack.
Well, shame is the thing of the past.
Well, yeah, but I feel like in order to feel shame, you have to have a conscience and care what other people think of you, and
care about the effects of your actions on other people.
Exactly. And so I think, lack of a conscience, lack of empathy, all of those things all play into it. And I think that our society is very not empathetic. Like, if we had more empathy in our world, it would just be such a better place.
Yeah, but we'll get more into that in the politic, but that's like a nice little preview.
Yeah. It didn't help with this specific case either that the judge was super racist.
Yep.
And that was just so obvious the entire time. And so, I mean, unfortunately, the justice system did not work in this specific case, but at least we have one case where it did work. And that I'm talking about the Ahmaud Arbery trial. That verdict came back, I think it was like the day before Thanksgiving. And those men were all found guilty of murder. So at least the justice system worked in that case, I can say.
Yeah, at least Georgia was way less cringy than Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, like, this should be tried as a federal crime anyway because there was a crossing of state lines. But no, let's not do that.
I mean, what can you do?
I mean, I'm no legal expert, but I do know that if you cross state lines, it becomes federal.
Did they cross state lines while committing the crime? Or did they commit the crime on both sides of the state lines? Because
he crossed the state line to commit the crime. Rittenhouse, not the Georgia people.
Okay. Oh, you're talking about Rittenhouse. I don't know. If he had killed someone in the other state and then went and killed someone in Wisconsin, then that would be a federal crime. But, like, because he killed 3 people, right?
Yes. And he didn't own the gun. Like, that was not his gun.
Yeah, if he had committed a crime, even if it wasn't murder, in the starting state, even if it was like robbery or I don't know, illegal purchase of a firearm or whatever it was.
If we were talking about a black man, they would have found another crime.
Oh yeah, yeah.
To like tag him with.
I 100% agree. Yeah. So just yeah. I mean, it's our bullshit. Justice system, guys. Anyway, let's talk about Harry Potter because it's just happier. It's just happier. So, if you would like to be reminded of what happens in Chapter 17 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood
Prince, which is titled again, A Sluggish Memory.
A Sluggish Memory. Yes, if you would like to be reminded, I'm so happy to say that you have come to the right place because I'm going to remind you right now. This is the one. This is the one where the students return from holiday break and start getting excited for apparition lessons. Yay! Harry attends another private lesson with Dumbledore where they view 2 new memories that he has acquired. One from Morphin Gaunt, proving Voldemort did indeed murder his father and grandparents and then took the Gaunt family ring. And then another one from Slughorn that he himself has altered, not Dumbledore, Slughorn, has altered to make it look like he didn't reveal information about Horcruxes to a young Tom Riddle at Hogwarts.
And let's just say that the way that he himself edited these memories is very much like me trying to use paint as Photoshop.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he used the paint of memory altering.
It was like the Microsoft Paint instead of using Photoshop. Like, oh, everything went cloudy, and then like a superimposed voice said.
Yep. It's like he made it on iMovie or something.
Oh, girl, that's too like high class. Like,
well, I'm trying to think of like a video editing software. Like, what for example, one time a really freaking rude client of ours at work tried to tell us that the edit that we had made for their video looked like it was made on iMovie. That was their version of an insult, so that's why I said that.
Okay. Well, I guess the sophisticates of the world would say iMovie is very
Yeah,
low
like as
class.
opposed to like Adobe Premiere or, After Effects or whatever. Yeah, like
Okay, whatever. I mean, I feel like I understand that we want a movie equivalent, but the best I can do right now is Microsoft
no,
Paint
yes, it's a good
and Photoshop.
it paints a
It paints
picture.
a picture.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Also, that client was super rude.
Oh, I hated her so much. I'm so glad to be done with her. Anyway, on to our Hogwarts debate club, where we're going to talk about the politics that we thought defined this chapter. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I mean, surprise, surprise, we have the same one.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen sometimes.
Well, there's like not another like because that's the one I had as soon as I heard the chapter, and I was like, open the doc, look at the politics. And I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, hear it again. And I swear to God, I heard it like 4 times, Helene, and I could not
the chapter
come up with a different one.
You read it? Oh goodness. I mean, if this was fresh in my mind, I could have told you all the different ones I went through before coming up with this one. I do think that I did like workshop a couple of different options before getting to this one. I don't remember what they were though.
Well, it's the only one that I could think. Like my pregnancy brain was just like not giving me anything else.
It's a good one. So the politic that we both had this week was shame. Yours was shame/guilt. Do you want to talk about the guilt part of yours, or do you want me to start with shame and then?
So I mean, let's do something like this.
Okay.
I want to go into like the actual like politic as we talked about earlier. Like,
right.
Here's what I see that's missing in our politics,
right,
in the U.S., and then we can go from there into the chapter. Is that okay?
Yeah, totally. Go ahead.
Okay. So when I think about like shame and guilt, right? These are emotions that are negative, but they can be productive in the right context. So if we do something that harms other people, whether it be that we meant to or not, and usually we don't mean to, and we can use that emotion inside us, and instead of moving to pride or boastfulness and say like fuck your feelings, we can learn from that and become better human beings. That's like a good use of shame and guilt. The problem is when shame transforms into pride, as in like, well, I am not going to bend on this and I'm just going to be boastful about it. To kind of
like when it becomes a lie that you tell yourself that you end up believing.
Exactly, like to cloud over that unpleasant emotion that you don't know how to deal with.
Right.
So, as someone who grew up in a Catholic household, guilt was like the chef's kiss of Catholicism.
Oh my God. Judaism too. Jewish guilt, totally a thing.
Oh my God. The biggest thing. And it's used by parents, right? And the religion to try to make you into a better human being and not be such a little shit. But if instead you like are defiant, right, against the shame, and you move into pride and be like, well, now I'm just gonna flaunt it, then you don't become a better person.
Yeah, it's like when you take the defensive route, instead of it like admitting that you possibly,
like a constructive.
Yeah, instead of admitting you could have done something wrong, you and like living in the shame and like learning and growing from it, you become defensive and say, I would never do that. And then you start to believe that lie. And then you become, yeah.
And then you find ways to justify your actions rather than say, let me deconstruct what happened to get me to this place and why this is so harmful, right? So a lot of our politics are based on pride rather than shame right now. Like when we talk about school shootings, right? For instance, the NRA, instead of feeling shame and using that shame to enact better, like to lobby for better gun policies and safety policies, there was a NPR investigative report that leaked a 1-hour phone call that the NRA had within their own members in after the Sandy Hook massacre, I believe. And they definitely felt shame. They definitely felt guilt. But towards the end of this, you know what they did? They pushed it aside and went with pride and didn't like and the response has shaped a lot of our gun control discourse in the Republican Party. So had they sat with that shame and that guilt and learned from it and been constructive about it instead of reactionary and defensive and prideful, we would probably be having a different discourse right now around gun culture. It on the right, not on the left, but on the right for sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, I completely agree.
So we kind of see this in the chapter with Slughorn, how he like gets defensive.
Yeah, he's a very prideful person, Slughorn.
And like chooses to Microsoft Paint over his memories.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's too much. It's too much. But also the fat lady displays like some shame after overindulging. So she makes like the opposite thing where it's like the password is absence, which is kind of weird. And then there's another one because I just went through yours and I was like, I'm gonna add mine and that's it, and then you can go through yours.
Okay.
Ron saying that he better pass his apparition test the first time because he doesn't want to be shamed by Fred and George.
That's good. I didn't catch on that one. Yeah. Because I have a
also
a
like
list.
Ron is low-key ashamed of his girlfriend.
I mean, I think he's ashamed of the fact that he literally is only with her because he wants to like look and feel cool.
Yeah, but also like she's her demonstrations are kind of over the top for him, and he's starting to get to him like that shame of like, oh no,
I think he's starting to realize like, oh, at first I looked cool because I was kissing someone, and now I look like not so cool because she's a little bit much.
Because of the clinginess of the situation.
Yeah.
It's
all about optics for young Ronald Weasley.
Well, isn't it for all of us sometimes?
Sometimes. So yeah, I did my define the terms at the beginning. So I mean, we obviously know what shame is, but I like to just define it. So I defined it as.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's a painful emotion caused by consciousness of guilt, shortcoming, or impropriety. And so to be ashamed means to be embarrassed or guilty because of one's actions, characteristics, or associations. So shame and guilt really go together. I like you said, because you kind of combine them. Guilt shows up twice in the definition of shame, so makes sense. But the main reason I picked shame for the chapter is because of Slughorn. The fact that he tampers with his memory to make it seem like he never liked or praised Tom Riddle, as well as to make it look like he never actually gave him sensitive information about sensitive information about Horcruxes that eventually aided in the planning and execution of multiple murders, and therefore he didn't want to be seen as like guilty by association. And he was ashamed of the role that he played in those murders because without that information, I mean, arguably, I feel like Tom Riddle probably would have still gotten the information he wanted on Horcruxes without Slughorn, but I don't know, maybe he would have had a roadblock or two.
Maybe he would have been like stopped by a couple of months.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, so yeah, as I mentioned, he obviously changes this memory due to the fact that he's ashamed that he ever played any role in Tom Riddle's life or any part in his rise to power. Doesn't want to be associated with that because it doesn't make him look good, and probably he feels guilty.
And he's all about association, right? Like he wants to be associated with his most powerful and good students, the ones that portray a certain image to the world, right? But he doesn't want to be associated with, I also had a hand in educating the most terrible wizard of all time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he cares about public perception as well as association. So not only who he's associated with, but
what role he had in their success.
Well, also like what that says publicly about him. So if people look at him and say, "Oh, he's associated with," like, I mean, he'd love to be associated with, I don't know. I guess I would say he would hate to be associated with someone like Hitler. Like, he wants to be associated with strong, powerful people, but not, universally hated people like Hitler or Voldemort.
Like Stalin,
Yeah, and I don't know if that is because of personal moral issues. I think
or more of a perception issue.
Yeah, like I feel like it's probably partly immoral, but I think a lot of it is that it would look bad if he was associated with Hitler, Voldemort, or any of those bad dictator people, like, I don't know, Trump.
Or Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he just wants to be seen in a favorable light, and so it brings him shame to know that he was associated with him, and therefore wants to hide that fact from the world forever.
Correct.
Because of his pride, which we talked about also. So the way that he deals with his shame, instead of, using it, as you said, to like go work towards personal growth, he instead convinces both himself and everyone else that he can possibly convince that whatever he's ashamed of never happened in the first place. And doesn't.
Yeah, but it's not very convincing when you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So by doing that, he doesn't have to actually admit or own up to any of his mistakes or wrongdoings, or promise to do better in the future. He can get around becoming a better person by just pretending that it didn't happen in the first place.
Oh my gosh.
So
Sluggy.
So yeah.
Well, I think we should just go into our deep dive section where you tell me your quote or moment that you thought in this chapter personified shame.
Yes, mine was Professor Slughorn has meddled with his own recollections. But why would he do that? Because I think he is ashamed of what he remembers, said Dumbledore. He has tried to rework the memory to show himself in a better light, obliterating those parts which he does not wish me to see.
All right.
I mean, basically says exactly what I was saying, so.
Well, mine is a little bit different because I wanted to pick a smaller bit of the chapter that dealt with shame. And it's this passage when they're talking about apparition. I forgot you'd already done it. I'd better pass my test the first time, said Ron, looking anxious. Fred and George did. Charlie failed, though, didn't he? Yeah, but Charlie's bigger than me. Ron held his arms out from his body as though he was a gorilla. So Fred and George didn't go on about it much. Not to his face, anyway.
Yeah, he wants...
And here we see, like, how, yes, Slughorn in a big way is trying to rewrite history because he feels ashamed, but Ron is so afraid of what his brothers are going to say and do about him that he's preemptively feeling shame.
Yeah.
About, like, if he doesn't pass it the first time, so that's his motivator to pass it the first time.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, like, oh, so, like, preemptive shame. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, because he's just like, cringe, I don't want anything else to be, like, a, like, talking point for anyone in my family.
Right.
Which, I mean, I low-key relate to, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we have the same character.
Correct. I mean, by far and large, Slughorn is the definition of shame in this chapter. Like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, totally. It's Sluggy boy.
Oh, Sluggy. But throughout the book, how do you see shame?
The first person that I thought of was Lupin. Because sadly he is
my baby werewolf.
Yeah, he's really ashamed of his condition, of his lycanthropy, and he lets it affect his life quite in a big way. And then Snape is ashamed of the actions that he took that led to Lily's death, which is why he joins Dumbledore in the, like, Order of the Phoenix in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess that's one positive thing I can say about Snape, is that he felt shame and he, like, tried to become a better person from it, rather than turning it into pride or, whatever the Fox Slughorn does with it.
Sometimes he turns it into pride, you know, like it's like selective.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I think this is probably like the biggest moment we see.
Okay, but like overarching, yes.
Yeah.
But moment by moment, you're like, you didn't have to treat Harry that way.
No, totally. And like I would say that he doesn't like he feels all of his actions towards Harry are resulted from like an unprocessed shame that he felt from being bullied growing up. So like he has this unprocessed shame that he that was inflicted on him from James, and he uses that, and instead of becoming a better person like that way and becoming like a better human who treats people and children better, he takes it out on his children.
Well, he's one of those people where like he's one of those people, you know how there are two kinds of people in the world, those who like use their suffering to learn how to be a better person towards other people.
Yeah.
And there's the people who continue to inflict that same suffering on others, thinking that if I had to learn it this way, then you also have to learn it this way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So in that aspect, Snape fails miserably in taking his shame and like learning and drawing from it. In the specific instance of what happened with Lily and the parts and roles that he played in her death, and turning that into something where it made him switch sides and become a person that's fighting for good instead of evil. Like in that specific instance, he did a good job, but in his daily actions, not so much. And then finally, Dumbledore actually feels a lot of shame in the part that he played in his sister's death, and I think that informs a lot of who he is and the actions he takes and the person he tries to be. And I think that it played a huge role in the fact that he didn't go down the path that Grindelwald went down, right? Because like when he met Grindelwald, they were working towards this common goal that Grindelwald continued after everything went down, but because of Ariana's death and the shame that he felt from that, he was like, I cannot let myself become a person that, you know, these things happen around, and I can't be responsible.
Whereas what Grindelwald
for this.
got to from that is, I did everything completely right, therefore I'm continuing in this path.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, props to Dumbledore for seeing his shortcomings and and feeling the shame of the part he played in Ariana's death, and like trying to do better.
Well, the thing about shame is like, when, you know, like we talked about it, it's a very uncomfortable feeling.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like feeling it at all, right?
Yeah.
And your first instinct as a human being with something you do not enjoy is to try to get rid of it as quickly as possible. And the quickest route to get rid of it is to turn it into, well, this is not my fault because, and justify yourself, right? And talk to yourself into a narrative that's completely false.
Right.
With, you know, so that becomes your pride and your like, just boastfulness, which is kind of like how you go to extremes, right? But if you sit with your shame long enough and because we're not perfect, right? Like I've felt shame so many times. Sometimes over things maybe I shouldn't, you know, like that's to that level, right?
Yeah.
And you sit with it long enough and you try to like say, okay, how was I complicit in this? Or how did I harm someone with my actions, and how can I do better in the future, or how can I make amends? Like that takes a lot out of you. That takes it
well,
like
you have to be extremely emotionally intelligent, and like you have to have the want and drive to better yourself, and not everybody has that.
Well, I mean, there's also reasons why they're like, there's such a big wellness market, right? Into like a lot of promises of, if you take these pills, this will happen.
Right.
And
yeah.
like they're not FDA approved or anything, right? But like, you know, like there's such a market for the easy fix. It's because we do not like to be uncomfortable in our bodies or in our emotions.
True.
So change of any kind emotional or physical, requires deep discomfort. And that is something that we don't want to do a lot of times.
Totally. Yeah, definitely.
So
anyway, what about you?
I was thinking, prefacing this, I don't know, I just wanted to get that out there. Like, eventually Ron is kind of ashamed of his association with Lavender throughout the series, throughout the book.
Yeah.
And Slughorn has to come face to face with his shame and the part that he played in making Voldemort nearly immortal. And Dumbledore has to face terrors when drinking from the basin at the cave. And Snape has to basically also murder his mentor and like know that he's following the rules, but also like feel the shame of the community at him. I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, as we move over from shame, let's talk about Dementors in Chocolate, what we hated and what we liked in this chapter. What was your Dementor, Helene?
Yeah, you briefly mentioned it earlier, and I'm not 100% sure really even if this is a full-on Dementor for me. I kind of wasn't sure how to unpack how I felt about this. I just thought it was odd, and like it threw me off, and I was like, what the hell? But the fact that the fat lady Gryffindor common room like portrait the password was abstinence because she had a night of overindulgence with like wine and monks and I was like, abstinence, oh my goodness. And so I was like, what is this saying? What is she trying to say about like I don't know. It threw me off and I was like, this is weird, but I didn't 100% know why. I thought,
okay, so let's unpack that real quick.
Please help me.
All right, so that was like that's a response based in shame that is not changing anything about her behavior, right? It's more like outwardly saying like like abstinence. Maybe it's more like the projection aspect of it that makes you uncomfortable. Like, it's not that she herself is making any changes because she feels shame, but she's projecting that into like it being the password for like so that everyone knows that that's what they should be thinking about, but she's not really thinking about it.
Yeah, it's more like I'm confused as to what the author was kind of like saying with this.
So this portrait, which is not a really living being, but is somehow alive, right?
Yeah.
But it's also like a figure of allowing you into certain spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Like is basically preaching abstinence.
Yeah.
After not following it.
Yeah, not practicing what she preaches. But also like why like it's like you said it earlier that it's obviously based off of like a shame. She goes and she has a night full of wine and monks. I don't know what she does with the wine or the monks. I'm guessing she drinks the wine.
I hope she drinks the wine.
Yeah, I'm guessing she drinks the wine, but like I mean, she doesn't go into detail as to what happened. All I know is it involved those two things.
Yeah.
Although they're monks, so I really don't think that there was like anything sexual going on because I'm pretty sure that monks are like
I'm sorry. Do you not know about like people of the cloth and their carnal urges?
Well, I guess like aren't monks are like
they're supposed to be abstinent, but that doesn't mean they're going to be.
I was gonna say like monks are like male nuns, right? Like they're married to God, kind of. Because that's what.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, but yeah, I guess like if the author wanted to paint a picture of like that's what happened, I feel like it would have been something like other than monks. I don't know. Anyway, just like the fact that obviously she alludes to like some drunken sexual activities happening.
She's like, I just had an orgy with a bunch of monks, and now I'm preaching abstinence.
But also, it can also be read as like abstinence from alcohol too, instead of abstinence from sex. Like, oh, I just got way too drunk and like crazy last night.
The reason I didn't like it was because I originally read it as abstinence from food and wine.
Mm-hmm.
and like how that could be associated with so many eating disorders, and how that's like a very unhealthy way to approach being after like a binging episode, because that also just encourages more binging later on, like that cycle. And how that also hit me the wrong way because of the fat phobia that the author has often been, criticized for.
Yep.
And how that's just another nail in that particular coffin for me.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, it was a weird moment and I didn't like it, so it became my Dementor. What about you? What was your Dementor this chapter?
Well, this chapter, I am still not sure that I love the way that the author writes about women. We just talked about the fat lady, but now let's talk about Lavender Brown. It's not very feminist writing of a female character. It's very like overzealous, over like clingy. It's just like all the stereotypes that like make teenage girls seem silly and dumb. I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, she is not a likable character. That's 100% true. And I think that she's not likable because of some of her like overt girlishness.
Yeah, and that's that. I have a problem with that.
Like she turns it into a bad thing.
Yeah, the author tends to turn, like me as someone who likes pink and who likes flowers and who likes things, right? Like, I'm like, wait, but I am also a very serious and studious person. I can be both, like you don't have to be either or.
She's a very one-sided character. Like we don't see anything really about Lavender except for like the things we know about Lavender are she likes divination. She likes gossiping with her girlfriends.
It's all like the very like
and
negative female stereotypes.
She likes boy like giggling about boys, and she likes to kiss Ron Weasley. Like that's like all we know about her.
Yeah, and also like so that right when you.
Oh, and she had a bunny.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Very redeeming quality.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like, this like pitting, like you can only be like either like serious and studious and brilliant and not care that much about your appearance or boys, versus like, or you can be silly, frivolous, and all these things. Like it just creates like this binary that is so false.
Yeah, I agree.
Because guess what? You can like it all and be a full person.
Yeah, definitely.
This is not new. This is like my continual tirade against the author, right? Like, why is pink a bad color? Why are bright colors bad? Excuse me, a lover of bright colors, says I am also like okay and kind of smart person. Why are you like saying that I'm a bad person now for this?
I know. Yeah. I mean, it's just the same thing. We just keep on seeing evidence for it. So
we talked about what we hated. What do we love?
Mine was a quote. Not surprisingly, it's a Dumbledore-centered quote. It says, "He accused me of being Dumbledore's man through and through. How very rude of him. I told him I was." Dumbledore opened his mouth to speak and then closed it again. To Harry's intense embarrassment, he suddenly realized that Dumbledore's bright blue eyes looked rather watery and stared hastily at his own knees. When Dumbledore spoke, however, his voice was quite steady. "I am very touched, Harry." Aww.
That was like my other chocolate, to be honest.
He made Dumbledore tear up. It was so cute. I just was like, "Aw."
Well, Dumbledore is a man who is, how can we say this lightly, is used to being criticized by all sides.
Yeah.
So to like have such unwavering loyalty, and also knowing that his plan is to basically sacrifice Harry as a pawn, hopefully thinking that like has a 50-50 chance of his plan like proving it right, like
Yeah.
Harry survives, but not really being sure because there's never been a human Horcrux. Like, he's
Yeah.
like, oh crap.
Yeah, but also like I feel like it's these types of moments that prove that Dumbledore really does care for Harry. Like there are people out there who argue that Dumbledore like never truly couldn't truly care for him because he, was planning on him dying the whole time. And like, no, I think that Dumbledore truly loved this boy. Like I honestly think that, I mean, he obviously cared. What? Albus!
I think
He is like gonna fucking fall out the window. Get out of there. Sorry.
we were talking about the other Albus, and then you just yelled Albus. It was great.
So my window is like cracked open. He like crawled between the window and it was scary. It looked like he was gonna fall out the window. Anyway, what was I saying?
A tale of two Albuses.
Right. No, I mean it's obvious that Albus really, in these moments, that he cares for Harry because he cares what Harry thinks of him. He, like, when he finds out that Harry does, kind of have this mutual respect for him and cares about him and wants him to know that like he is loyal to him, like that it makes him emotional. We don't see Dumbledore emotional hardly ever, but it's moments like these that make him emotional, and it makes me emotional.
I love it. I love it so much. Mine is like Harry's being like, but Hermione, I was right, you see? Because I just love when someone, just stands up for themselves. It's like, I fucking told you so.
Right. And I feel like Harry has every right to do that in this book because no one ever fucking listens to him, and he is right.
I know. I just, it's kind of like that burden of being like smart enough to know what's going on and in tune with what's going on around you, but then no one else is really attuned to what's going on around you. And then they're like, you're being paranoid. And you're like, I swear I'm not being paranoid. I have legitimate reasons for this.
It's just it's so intensely frustrating that after all the
like,
stuff
this
that
was okay. Basically, I was Harry and a Half-Blood Prince when, like, the Cheeto got elected, and I was like,
right.
Well, there go our rights. Well, there goes this, there goes that. And, some people were like, you're overreacting, Adri, whatever. And then 4 years on the road, 4 years on the road, I was like, I was fucking right.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just really frustrating to watch Harry, who has like gone through all this shit and has really earned people's trust at this point in terms of like knowing what he's talking about when it comes to like evil stuff that he's going to have to fight in the future. Like, just trust your dude. But no, it's just frustrating. It's very frustrating. Anyway.
Are you saying that I didn't go through all the trials and tribulations of one Harry Potter? Of course I did. Just kidding.
Okay.
Okay. All right. That being said, this is the time where we remind you that we have a Patreon just for our super duper listeners, where we give extra bonus content every month or every episode, really. And this helps us stay afloat, pay our subscriptions and fees, and keep this show going because we want to get to book 7 eventually.
We do. And we will.
And if you want to join this exclusive club, you can hop on over to patreon.com/Occhiopolitics.
Yeah, if you do so, there are delightful
treats,
goodies, yes, treats awaiting for you if you do so. As Adri mentioned, you're going to get bonus content at all of our tiers, but you'll get digital bonus content for every episode if you pay $2 a month or more. And the $5 and $10 a month tiers are also going to get you that plus physical rewards like stickers and recipe books.
And those are mailed every 3 months.
Yes, they are.
Because, it would be a little bit too much administratively to do this monthly.
Yes. But they're worth it.
So it's like a subscription package.
Yeah.
Just subscription box.
They're totally worth it. So keep your eye out. You're not gonna regret it.
And then, for today's episode, if you were wondering, I wonder what kind of content these ladies are dishing out over on Patreon, please listen to what I'm about to say. Today, we're going to be talking about the role of personal narrative, a comparison between one Professor Slughorn and one Professor Lockhart.
Ooh.
Because, they both lie to themselves and the world, which is great.
Yeah. Two not so great human beings.
Spoiler alert.
Two not so great human beings. Yeah.
Two different houses, but, they have a lot of pride.
This is true. It's one of their deadly sins.
Every episode, we ask our listeners a question so that they can, give us their 2 cents, 10 cents, all their money. I don't know how this works. About, these burning questions we have in our souls every week. Last time, we asked this following question. What could the Ministry of Magic have done to regain Harry's trust after the events of Book 5? Before asking him for a huge favor?
Yeah. I loved this question. As always, we get such great answers from you guys. The first one we got was from the wonderful ladies over at Swish and Flick podcast. They replied with "Not B. Richards," which, if you don't listen to their podcast, they are PG. They do not get to cuss over in their land as we do here over in Accupolitics. So they aren't allowed to call people dicks.
Exactly.
So they call them Richards, and I love it. They said not be Richards, which that's what would have regained Harry's trust, which I agree.
Just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
That's just easy.
Exactly. And then Callie Lamb 1 said, apologize to Harry for smearing his name, and then hear out his methods on how to move forward and at least be willing to compromise. And also not be self-righteous jerks. And then did like a cute little emoji with like the little smiley sweaty guy.
Thank you for that. You made me snort.
The smiley sweaty guy. Yeah, no, I didn't think I was going to say it like that, but okay. I love that, Callie. I totally agree. Listening to him, and being willing to compromise, totally necessary.
You mean have empathy? What?
I know, right? And then at Dakopinski said, "Send Umbridge to Azkaban?" ? I mean, yes, great.
Slow clap. Yeah. Slow clap.
Please, that would have been just like Beautiful. The least they could have done, right?
It's like not give her a promotion.
Yeah. Just and as the next one, Kitashi reads. It might be Kitashi reads. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Or it could be Kita. She reads. I don't know. They said fired or imprisoned Umbridge after all she did. So even I guess like the least they could do would have been fired her, not even just sent her to Azkaban.
Not just like give her more power within the ministry, guys.
Yeah. Or actually checked Stan Shunpike to see if he was imperious or not. Or, just in general, maybe listen to Harry when he told them exactly what they needed to do to get his trust, since their own track record was pretty well shot after their smear campaign.
Jeez, oh no, I'm so sorry I badmouthed you, but now can I have a soundbite for my PR team?
I know, yeah. I mean, technically it was Fudge that did those things, and then it was obviously Scrimgeour who is asking for this, but they both represent the same organization.
No, but it was Fudge's plan. That's what we learned in this chapter.
Yeah.
It was Fudge's plan, and then Scrimgeour just ran with it.
Yep. And then the last one I'm going to read today is from Jeff at Dreamquaffle. He says, Fudge resigns, Umbridge in jail, Minister Kingsley, maybe an apology cake, specifically ice cream.
You know what? I am team apology cake ice cream.
Yes, apology ice cream cake.
I am not, from now on, all my apologies will be in ice cream cake. Thank you. I will be receiving all apologies in ice cream cake form.
Yes, exactly. I love it.
That's all I want from life right now. Thank you, Jeff. All right, thanks everyone for your answers. This week, we also have surprise, surprise, another question for you listeners.
We're nothing if not consistent.
Of course. So as we know, in this chapter, we learn, or, in the following chapters, we learn that Slughorn played a significant but unknowing part in Voldemort's ascent to power. Now, do you think Slughorn was more ashamed of Voldemort's actions, their morality, or the optics of being associated with Voldemort himself? How Slughorn is perceived?
Let us know.
It's a juicy one because, I think we both agree, Helene, that it's both, but what is the most? Like, what is the overriding one? It cannot be 50-50.
Yeah, I would say, it's definitely a mixture of both. Unless you would think that Slughorn totally doesn't care about morality at all and he only cares about his perception. There might be people like that. But
and if you do, also, write us and tell us why. I would love to hear.
I don't really know if there's an argument for the opposite. I don't think there's an argument for the fact that he wasn't ashamed, partly by the fact that this made him look bad, because he really obviously cares about how he looks to other people. I don't think there's an argument for that, against that.
Yeah,
but there might be an argument for the other way. So I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, I'm excited to find out.
And maybe you're just screaming into your phone or your car, wherever you're listening to us, and saying no, he totally, you're wrong. He doesn't care what people think about him. I mean, if that's the case,
if you
find
tell that into your heart, please call 915-996-1699. That is 915-996-1699. Or you can send us an MP3 of your lovely voice to info@ociopolitics.com or ociopolitics@gmail.com, because we would love to play it on the pod.
Yeah, we want to.
I would love to play your screaming voices.
Yeah, I would love to hear. I would love to hear your argument for that. If you really do think that it's possible, but tell us. Yeah, I want to hear what you guys.
And if you're not everyone loves the sound of their voice. I get it. I get it. So if you're a little shy, you can also write us at those email addresses, or you can find us on social at Ociopolitics on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Heck yeah. Do it.
Well, Helene, we've done it. We've completed the episode. But before we go, let's talk a few non-Harry Potter items, because, media we've been consuming and all that jazz.
Yeah. Totally. So for mine, obviously,
you've been listening to Red Taylor's version. We discussed this earlier.
Yes, that was the first one. But since that, has been a few weeks since that came out, over a
few decades in this timeline.
I mean, you got to stay relevant in pop culture. But over Thanksgiving, I was home for a week with my parents, and we watched on Netflix Tick Tick Boom, which I don't know if you haven't heard of it yet. It's
I have not.
Oh, okay, so it's a film about I think it's Jonathan Larson. Yes, Jonathan Larson. It is a film about his life. He is the writer composer of the Broadway musical Rent, and it's a film about his life leading up to when he wrote Rent, and sadly, tragically, he died the week before Rent debuted on Broadway, so we never actually got to see the fruits of his labors, but you get to see all of his labors in his story of how he became the person and that he was to write Rent, and all the influences of his life that obviously made it into the story. He's played by Andrew Garfield. It's a musical, and it's Andrew Garfield's first singing role, which is really interesting. And it was the movie itself was written by, and directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda. So it's another Lin-Manuel Miranda musical. It's very good. I, as a Rent fan myself, really enjoyed learning more about that story and how it came to be, and like all the parts of Jonathan's life that were, kind of like influenced to make Rent. And I suggest it. It was very good if you like musicals.
Nice, thank you. Well, I have not been watching Netflix or anything like that. I have been immersed in the Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise downloadable content.
Yeah, you're still playing that? You still into it?
Well, I bought the DLC, which is Happy Home Paradise.
I also bought that.
And yep, I'm just chugging along with my new job as an interior designer for all these wonderful creatures at Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I bought it and I've only played it a tiny bit. I haven't really gotten super like immersed in it yet. I do plan to play it more eventually, but
I'm almost out of the map.
I mean, awesome. I'm glad that you're enjoying it so much. I got distracted because I did mean to play that one, but I ended up buying the Pokemon Shining Pearl game. It's a remake of a Gen 4 game that originally I think was on like Game Boy Color.
Oh my god, don't tell me these things. I think I had that one in Game Boy Color and now I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, so it's Gen 4 and so like there are some, so the reason I don't usually play a lot of like more recent Pokemon games is because like I really only know / care about generations 1 and 2 of Pokemon. So like the OG nostalgic like Pikachu,
correct.
Yeah, Squirtle, Bulbasaur,
you and I are in the same wavelength. Like, listen, this is the peak. This is where I was in. Everything after that is for I'm sorry, different generations.
Yeah, I just like don't have the nostalgic like. I don't care about like the newer ones.
I don't have the connection with it, friends.
Especially the like the most new like Pokemon games don't actually have a lot of like the original Pokemon in them. But this one, since it's a remake of it's up to Generation 4, so there are actually not too many Pokemon that I hadn't heard of. It's mostly like ones I had heard of. So like my party, I have a Psyduck and a Ponyta and like a Machop and a Geodude, like the OG Pokemon.
You're gonna make me want to have. God damn it! Now I'm gonna play like another game. Really?
Yeah, I've been playing it
in this economy.
I've been playing it obsessively. Yeah, like I bought it. Like I think on Thanksgiving or the day before Thanksgiving.
Speaking of nostalgia, do you know what I bought the day before Thanksgiving? I bought Roller Coaster Tycoon 3.
Oh my god, I really want to play that again. Is it fun?
It's on the Switch.
How much is it?
It's $30.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay, I'll have to look into it. I do want to.
It is just like the computer version. It's great. Like, it's the computer version in your little Switch. And I was like, should I do it? No, I shouldn't. Then I was like, fuck it, I will do it.
Yeah, I made the mistake of buying the Pokemon game while I was home with my parents, where I have like unlimited time to do almost anything I want and not have to work. So I bought it a week ago and I'm already like on like level 30 or 40. It's bad.
Helene, no, I'm going to buy it because I just got paid today. This is not good.
We can trade if you get diamonds. So there's 2 that came out. There's the Brilliant Diamond and the Shining Pearl, and each have like exclusives that you can only get in each game. And so you can buy both, so you can have all of them, which I would never do. But so like if you,
which you would never do right now, right?
I mean, no, I would never. It's like not worth it. But what you can do is like if you buy one and I buy the other, then we can trade the exclusives online.
Okay. I'm listening. I'm listening.
Yeah, so I can get you exclusives in my game that you can't get in yours, and vice versa. So
okay, I will look into
like
this.
For example, I think the Brilliant Diamond gets like a Seal and Dugong, which then like our Shining Pearl gets like, oh gosh, I can't remember right now, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Okay. Well, I'll look into it.
Everybody, like all the youths that are listening to this that like don't have the nostalgic connection with Pokemon, I'm sorry.
They've already turned off the podcast, so it's fine.
Probably.
They're just like, fuck it, we're done. This geriatric pregnant lady and this other like slightly younger lady. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely used to collect Pokemon cards and play like Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Puzzle League on my Nintendo 64. So,
God bless.
Yeah.
Nintendo 64.
I know. Anyway, that's
It's where I first played Mario Kart.
Oh, gosh, the good old days.
The good old days. Anyway, speaking of how geriatric I truly am, before we started this podcast, I had to take my blood pressure reading. So, yay!
What an old lady.
Also took my blood pressure medicine because. Anyway, that's it for today's episode. Please join us next time as we talk about Chapter 18 of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince: Birthday Surprises.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It sounds surprising.
Yeah. It sounds like a birthday surprise. Well, if you've enjoyed this conversation, please take a second to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. If you didn't enjoy the conversation, don't go give us a rating because we don't want anything other than 5 stars. Just putting that out there. You can do that on Apple Podcasts or wherever you happen to be listening right now. So if you're listening on Spotify Wrapped just came out. If we showed up on your Spotify Wrapped, please let us know. We'd love to see that. That's pretty cool. As a side note. But anyway, giving us a 5-star rating on any of these platforms does help new listeners discover the podcast. And it makes us happy, which I'm sure is all you've ever wanted in life, was to make 2 random people on the internet that you listen to their voices every once in a while happy. But that's what would happen.
Also, we hope that we make you happy. That's the more important part. But
I mean, that's the only reason we do this.
That's all we want in life, is to make you happy.
Exactly.
Because we're people pleasers.
We really are.
Well, until then, politics managed. Support this show by going to patreon.com/Occhiopolitics. Our patrons keep this show going. You can find us online at Occhiopolitics.com, and we are at Occhiopolitics on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can email us your thoughts at info@Occhiopolitics.com. Leave us a voicemail at 915-996-1699, and you might just hear yourself on the podcast. Adriana Wilson is the founder and creative director of the podcast. Helene Karp is the producer and social media manager. Allison Pullman is the audio wizard and editor who makes us sound so good. Cover art and physical rewards are designed by Adriana Wilson. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are expressly their own and not representative of their employers or associates. Occhiopolitics is part of the MuggleNet family of podcasts.